I did a video a while back, and in the title it was stated the phrase sexually undeveloped women. And I don't think too many people got what I was trying to convey in that video, especially if a particular man hasn't lived with women, um, hasn't had um, extended relationships with women. And if it's not a certain type of man, uh, they wouldn't understand what a sexually undeveloped or developed woman is. Yet it's an extremely um, important concept to understand for any relationship. It really defines women, who they are. And when I first published that video lecture, a certain female viewer, follower of my channel, who is normally very perceptive and discerning in this area, also didn't quite understand what I was trying to get at. I mean, it sounds somewhat disparaging to call women undeveloped and to imply that women can only be developed by men and only certain type of men at that. So it can be looked at and considered as somewhat a disparaging statement on women. Even worse, on all women. Probably a year went past that, and same female commenter made a startling comment which did not go unnoticed by me regarding the same issue. Profound comment. She said, believe, and I'm going to read it word for word. She says, believe it or not, girls actually become developed and mature by being in relationships with men. I have had many friends who have both been in relationships and those who have never been in any relationships or only short, limited relationships. She says there is quite a difference between the two. In fact, I don't know of any of my friends who have never been in a relationship to be what I would consider mature, developed. Again, she says, in fact, I don't know of any of my female friends who have never been in a relationship to be what I would consider mature or developed. Yes, maturity can also be used interchangeably, synonymously with developed. The developed female, as opposed to the underdeveloped or undeveloped female. The interesting finding is that regardless of the age of any particular woman, they can still be or remain completely undeveloped. That's why usually the single woman in her 40s will, in a lot of ways, be stunted at a particular emotional and intellectual and sexual and on every other level developmental stage, reminiscent of a 20-something-year-old female. And that's why their behavior is rather odd. They are usually not, use the word adoptable, not relationship worthy, not relationship capable. It's kind of like a pet that's not adoptable. Because their maturity on various levels, on every level, is very insufficient. And it would have a lot of negative effects on any type of relationship. And it would give her partner a very difficult time, especially a beta male who will struggle and will not have the abilities and the skills to develop this female, who at the same time will be very resistant to any development. And we will see evidence of this later. Exact situation that I was in. And I simply did not have the time, nor did I want to make the time to develop her. I wasn't in that circumstance, nor did I want to be in that situation. I wasn't being offered anything in return for the would-be effort, which would have been substantial on my part. She goes on and says, if I bring a guy around these undeveloped women, they kind of act like he is some kind of an alien from outer space. LOL. I've known guys who have never been in relationships, and yes, there is some degree of immaturity and social awkwardness from these guys, but not quite the difference and to the extent as you see in girls or women. So that's a startling commentary from a female viewer who at first didn't quite understand what I was getting at. But obviously she had thought about it, and it became very clear to her what exactly I was saying. Very profound. Now let me just go back a little bit and reiterate what the undeveloped female is. Now the original title and subject was sexually undeveloped women, but it is not just sexually. It's being developed as a woman on every level you can think of. And to do that, she has to be in long-term relationships with men. Either one man or many men. But let me make it perfectly clear right here that quantity of men is meaningless for the development of the female. In fact, we all know the quintessential slut, the way we like to call them on this channel, whores, who have been with multitude of men, more men than most men would ever be with in terms of women. What they like to call themselves, addicted to love. Those girls who are addicted to love. Those girls who keep looking for their magic man, but for some reason never seem to find him. And at the same time, these women are very undeveloped, grossly undeveloped. It's not a pleasant sight. It's not a pleasant experience to be with them. And they've been with many, 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 many men. So quantity of men means nothing, girls. You think you know men? You think you're experienced with men just because you've been with many men that we care not to mention? Well, you don't know anything about male nature or men, just in terms of quantity. A different element comes into play here, and that has to be quality of men. Quality of men. Especially those women who either did not have fathers present or did not have strong fathers growing up. And those women who did not have any brothers, but only sisters. Those women are predisposed and very susceptible of being undeveloped women. Undeveloped 40-year-old something, 50-year-old, 30-year-old undeveloped women who have a very hard time making a relationship stick or making a relationship be successful and enduring. So what is needed? A very specific type of man. A developer. Someone who is into achievement and results and takes an interest and has creativity, enthusiasm, drive, sex drive, knowledge, skill, adventurousness, individuality, initiative is the only type of man that can develop a woman. The whore is usually very undeveloped, the same way as the frigid 40-something-year-old is. One's no better than the other in terms of female development. And moreover, so it has to be a particular type of man. It cannot be a passive beta male. A woman needs to be developed on all other levels also, not only sexually. Obviously, for a woman to be developed sexually, she needs a high performance sexual male with a strong sex drive and an adventurous, unique, creative sex drive. The woman would then discover her own body and her own capabilities sexually. The man first must be a solid performer. A type B beta male will simply not cut it. The passive type B beta male, he will not be able to give her adequate stimulation or no stimulation at all on any level, and thus only be used as utility until needed, because the female will always be dominant. She will not submit to the type B male. She will not relinquish herself. She will not subordinate herself to even be in the position of development. Besides the male not having the capacity or the skills to develop or the drive to develop the woman. But all other levels are also to be developed and need to be developed in a woman, which is intellectually, morally, in terms of character, wisdom, femininity. A woman can only be feminine in the presence of a man. And that's where she's valued as being feminine. Submission, nurturing, honor, integrity, honesty, principles, loyalty, selflessness, sincerity, reliability, compassion. These are actually traits that do not come naturally to any female, in contradiction to the false narrative that women universally want to promulgate. So, in the second part, the second video, which deals with the single woman, you will see how this concept of the developed woman is really apt. And this concept really defines this lecture. And in the experience that I had with what I would call an undeveloped woman. I've also been with developed women. There's a great big difference between the two, which unfortunately today's society does not differentiate between. This is to the detriment of all men. Because there's a difference if you get a developed woman and if you have a relationship with an, or try to, with an undeveloped woman. With an undeveloped woman, it'll be a very difficult and not a very appealing experience. Not a very constructive experience. It will usually not lead anywhere. It can't. Because the undeveloped woman really doesn't know what to do with a man. And she may actually completely resist the development necessary due to her solipsistic, innately solipsistic nature, due to her innate female nature, which will dominate any situation that she is in, she finds herself in, with any man. In fact, it will most likely result in a complete fucking disaster. So get ready for it. I was ready for it. I knew ahead of time how this is going to end up and where it's going to lead. I could predict it. I knew the individual, and I could sense her undeveloped state. The next video coming up will deal specifically with disclosing of my situation with an undeveloped single woman. So stay tuned.